Well, welcome to the 700 Club. If you thought the Islamic State terror group had gone away, well, think again. Despite military defeat in Syria and Iraq, ISIS still has thousands of fighters and some 25 affiliates around the world.
Well, now Western intelligence agencies are bracing for terror attacks after the group called for revenge against Christians. This after a Danish activist publicly burned a Quran in Sweden last month. Dale Hurd reports.
Protests erupted throughout the Islamic world after the public burning of a Quran in Sweden last month. Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson said while the burning was deeply disrespectful, it was protected under freedom of expression. The Islamic State terror group on social media has called for revenge attacks on Christians worldwide. The Muslim holy month of Ramadan begins March 23rd, and last year's observance saw 42 ISIS terror attacks in just 3 days. The threat of ISIS has returned, and Western intelligence agencies are on the lookout for any signs of a terrorist attack. Security expert Eric Karen says that in the Middle East and Asia, ISIS never went away.
They have approximately 16,000 fighters between Iraq and Syria. They control 6 million people in that region. They have franchises throughout the world. We're talking probably around 25 franchises throughout Africa and Europe and here in America.
A recent United Nations report also shows the ISIS threat increasing. Terrorism expert Sargis Sengeri says while the U.S. had to defeat ISIS on the battlefield, that alone wasn't enough to stop the movement.
You have to kill folks on the battlefield to take ground. You have to do that. But I don't think we ever fought against the ideology that really resonates between the 6 inches of people's foreheads. So it will continue to fight, and it will continue to take territory. It will continue to force individuals to either convert or basically, die in the process.
Tina Ramirez with the humanitarian group Hardwired Global calls the resurgence of ISIS a nightmare for both Christians and Muslims in the Middle East.
ISIS used to hold court in the ancient churches in the city of Mosul and sentence Muslims, Christians, others to death, to having their hands or legs chopped off. And then the women, thousands of women that we know who've been sexually enslaved. So the trauma that the entire community went through was horrific.
ISIS is encouraging Muslims to use any method to kill Westerners, including trucks and nail guns. Karen believes the U.S. could be very vulnerable to a major terrorist attack.
On the southern border, the northern border is wide open. We know that there's over 55 million shipping containers that come into America. Less than 2% are examined. We need to take the gloves off and understand that this threat's not going away. It's only increased in the last few years. The idea that they don't want to attack us again like a 9/11, but even bigger, is foolish. They want to destroy America.
Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Well, it's been the fundamental problem on the war on terror is that how do you declare war on a tactic? Terrorism is a tactic, but it's a tactic based on an ideology. And that ideology runs deep. When you have terrorists kill Israelis and then the police of the Palestinian Authority hand out sweets to motorists in celebration of their, quote, victory, close quote, you get an understanding of how deep this goes. With ISIS, it's, well, how good of a Muslim are you? And if you don't measure up to our version of Islam, well, then we're entitled to kill you. If you're an infidel, death is the easy way out, but more likely we're going to enslave all your women and treat them however we want, and we'll kill all your men. This is a war of ideas, and we're not really engaging in that. We find it so abhorrent to think that somebody actually thinks this way. But we're not engaging it. We're not standing up for women's rights in the Muslim world. We're not standing up for the rights of all faiths to live together in peace and in harmony. It's happened before. In Lebanon, before 1972, it was considered the jewel of the Mediterranean, a place where you could have all faiths come together, live in peace, and have a wonderful culture and a wonderful society. They got radicalized when the Palestinians moved in, and they've been at war ever since, and war with themselves. How do we bring peace? Well, it's the Prince of Peace we need to bring. We need to preach that this is the much better way to live, and let's show that in everything that we do. Well, in other news, Israeli Defense Forces struck targets in Gaza after militants launched missiles at southern Israel. John Jessup has more on that story from our CBN News Bureau in Washington. John?
That's right, Gordon. It's the latest in a series of violent events between Israelis and Palestinians. The missiles were fired in response to an IDF daytime raid in the Palestinian city of Nablus. The IDF says it entered the city to arrest 2 militants involved in the killing of an Israeli defense soldier last month and planning terror attacks in the area. Sources tell CBN News what began as a routine arrest spiraled into a major battle involving Hamas, Islamic Jihad, and a group known as the Lion's Den. 10 Palestinians were killed and dozens were wounded in the firefight.
The special police unit's fighters neutralized the wanted people who shot at them, and we worked to isolate the area in the face of tens of armed men who fired at the forces.
IDF operations like this have been ongoing for the past year and a half in Judea and Samaria, also known as the West Bank. Some Middle East experts say Hamas and Islamic Jihad, with the help from Iran, are trying to inflame the West Bank and the city of Jerusalem. Well, back here in Washington, Republicans are maneuvering to block a potential plan by the Biden administration to protect abortion on a national level. Texas Congressman August Pfluger is proposing an amendment to the National Emergencies Act to prevent it from being used to promote or expand abortion access. The bill also prevents the president and the Department of Health and Human Services from targeting states that restrict abortion. Pfluger says the administration wants to use the federal emergency powers to help those seeking abortion get around those laws. Well, reports that the president might declare a public health emergency to protect access to abortion came out just prior to his State of the Union address. CBN News White House correspondent Abigail Robertson explains how that declaration might work and how pro-life advocates are responding.
President Biden has vowed to do everything he can to protect access to abortion nationwide. His next move may go directly after those states with pro-life laws on the books.
If Congress passes a national ban, I will veto it.
Axios reported Health and Human Services Secretary Xavier Becerra's decision to consider different options for expanding abortion access, including a potential emergency declaration.
A public health emergency is supposed to be declared so you can save lives. And in this case, they want to declare one to end life.
Such a move could open up federal funding for women to travel for an abortion if their state bans the procedure, and also make abortion medication more widely available.
To think that you can crush state laws, suppress the voices of people, so that you can end more life in the womb, it's an extraordinary overreach.
While the administration has hinted in the past this decision does not seem like a great option, Becerra confirmed to Axios HHS is doing an evaluation on abortion to determine whether an emergency declaration is needed.
I find it just absolutely confounding to think that protecting life could be declared a national health emergency.
Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin tells CBN News he's astounded this is being considered.
There's a moment here for us as Americans to step back and recognize the extremism on display here.
Abortion is currently legal in Virginia until 26 weeks and 6 days into pregnancy. Governor Youngkin hopes to bring the threshold down to when a child can feel pain at 15 weeks.
Virginians have been very clear. They want to see fewer abortions, not more. Unfortunately, and very disappointingly, the Senate Democrats have failed to listen to Virginians and instead have tried to progress a constitutional amendment to make abortion on demand.
A 2022 Wall Street Journal poll found more Americans support a 15-week abortion ban than oppose it. According to the Charlotte Lozier Institute, approximately 6% of all reported abortions take place at or after 15 weeks. Most of those are often performed for the same reasons as earlier abortions, such as delays in recognizing the pregnancy or taking more time to decide to terminate it. President Biden continues to state he only supports unrestricted abortion access.
Congress must restore the right that was taken away in Roe v. Wade and protect Roe v. Wade.
In Virginia, Youngkin says although Democrats controlling the Senate are unwilling to even discuss the issue, he's going to keep pressing and hopefully make progress. Reporting from Washington, Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
Thank you, Abigail. Turning now to Turkey, where the death toll now tops 47,000 from the earthquakes that struck the region, including northern Syria. At least 164,000 buildings collapsed or will need to be demolished because they're unsafe. Meanwhile, more than 1 million people are homeless and desperate for necessities like food, water, and medical care. Operation Blessing teams are on the ground continuing to bring comfort and relief by serving hot meals and delivering clothes to the victims. Also, a medical team is assessing people's injuries and other needs through a mobile clinic. OB volunteers are also packing and distributing bags full of hygiene items, in addition to Power X torches to provide light in the darkness. And Gordon, that's literal and spiritual, providing light to so many in these dark times of these earthquake victims.
And we're there in your name if you're giving to the Operation Blessing Disaster Relief Fund. We want to show people in Turkey that we care about them. God cares about them. We love them. We want to be with them in their time of need and provide help. If that's you and you want to be a part of it, just call us, 1-800-700-7000, or you can write to us at CBN Center. Just put Disaster Relief Fund in the memo line of a check. You can text to give, text OBDR to 71777, or you can go online to cbn.com. There's a place on the giving page where you can designate your gift to the Operation Blessing Disaster Relief Fund. Either way, do it right now, 1-800-700-7000.